Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm excited to have McLean joining me today. Hi Joanne.
Hi, so good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So McLean is a best-selling author of urban fantasy and supernatural thrillers. She is an Eric Hoffer and Global Book Award winner, a CIBA finalist, and has received honours from the Wishing Shelf Book Awards, the NIEA Awards, and the Whistler Independent Book Awards. She lives on Canada's west coast. And her latest book is Bloodmark, which I had the pleasure of reading recently, and have to say I really loved it. I liked the little bit of supernatural in it, as well as the thriller in that as well, which was great.
God, I love hearing when people enjoy the books. It kind of makes it so worthwhile because
Yeah.
it takes so long to write the things. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for letting me know.
So thanks for joining us. Do you want to start off by telling people about your books?
Sure. Yeah, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. So, Bloodmark is the story of Jane Walker. Jane Walker was abandoned at birth and born with a blood red birthmark that chained around her body. And so that bloodmark pretty much defined who she was. So as a child, she was ostracized and bullied. And as an adult, she tends to work in places where she's not at the front counter, so outside of the public eye. And so her clothing choices typically also are just to hide the marks that she has on her face and her hands and her feet and all over her body. So you can imagine how thrilled she is when one by one these birthmarks start to disappear. And she's absolutely thrilled about it until one day, while she's making a delivery out at the university, she delivers to a professor who not only does he have a print of her birthmark on his wall, but he also sees the mark on her hand. And at that point, she learns that this is not a birthmark like she thought it was. It's actually a blood mark, and it was given to her in a ritual. And she has to find out now, as the clock starts ticking, who it is that she's being protected from, or what it is she's being protected from, before that last mark disappears.
And yeah, and the blood mark, like that really interested me in that. How did you come up with that idea?
Well, the seed of the story was an NBC show, the very opening scene of an NBC show called Blind Spots, starring Jamie Alexander. And the opening scene of that show intrigued me. It was Times Square at night. The square had been cleared out. There was a big duffel bag in the middle of the square.
I remember that. I loved
Yeah,
that.
so you,
With the
yeah, so you,
tattoos and
yes,
yeah,
he
no,
comes
I
out of the
loved that.
bag covered in tattoos.
Yeah,
And I always thought,
yeah.
what would it be like to have to live with marks that weren't of your choosing? Like, how would that impact you? And that was the seed of the story. And then I just took it back to childhood and made it so that she would have no idea where these things came from as well.
And I've got some people watching. Marty, she says she loved Spot as well. And now that you mention, yeah, with the marks and that, I didn't really think about that at the time, but now, yeah,
Yeah. They even have the same name, Jane,
yeah,
for different
yeah,
reasons, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So just want to mention as well, the people watching, if you do have any questions, please type them in comments and I can read them out. Just wondering if you want to tell us a little bit about how you became a writer. Is it something growing up you always thought you wanted to do?
It wasn't actually. I did think about it when I was first starting to work. I lived in Toronto at the time, and there's snow and ice in Toronto in the wintertime. And I remember slogging it out to work and being on the bus and thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could stay home and just work from home? But there weren't a lot of jobs where you could do that. And I just never thought I'd have an idea big enough to write a whole book because it seems like such a lot. But many years later, after my husband and I had been traveling, we spent about 5 years in really sunny climates, like the last 3 in Tucson, Arizona. And we were home for our first winter. And here the winters are cool, not as much snow, but the winds and the rain are horrendous. And so we were sitting in the living room and the rain was hitting the window sideways and hockey game was on TV, and I was wondering how on earth I was going to entertain myself for that first winter when I was home after the sunny South. And so I just started picking away at writing a scene. I'd been reading a lot of urban fantasy while I was away and quite enjoyed the stories. And how did they grab your attention so thoroughly that you don't even know that the whole evening is gone? So I started playing around with the scene, just one scene. And after I had that scene perfected in my mind, I started expanding on it and kind of building it out further and further. And next thing you knew, I had the makings of the very first book that I ended up publishing. And so that's how it started. Just, I was an adult at the time. I was early retired, traveling with my husband, and it just struck me. I love writing what I read, and I love reading urban fantasy and thrillers. So that's what I write.
And when you started this your first book, how hard or easy was it to get that actually published?
That was super hard. It took a long time. It was hard because I'm not a tech person. I wasn't then. I'm more inclined now, but I had no idea of the publishing industry, and I didn't understand what was involved in it. So I ended up working with a partner publisher who were my teachers in essence. They taught me about the business. So as soon as I think the first 4 books were out, and at that point, I knew enough that I was able to, as I put the 5th book out, I was able to pull back all those titles from the partner publisher, and I created my own publishing house, and I put it out through my own publishing house.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it took a long time to get to that point.
And is fantasy something you've, like, as a child growing up, did you like reading fantasy?
Oh yeah, the first book I really remember that influenced me tremendously was The Chrysalids by John Wyndham, and I think I was in grade school when I read that. It was a very, very long time ago, but I was so intrigued with the whole idea of people who could talk to each other through their minds. It was like, oh, wow, okay, that kind of gives me the chills. I want to write that.
And what about what you've been reading lately? Is there anything you might have been reading that you'd like to recommend to us?
I would highly recommend the Deadwood series of books by Anne Charles. A little bit, like not over the top, but a little bit of urban fantasy like mine, a little bit of that supernatural.
I recently spoke to Anne Charles, actually.
Oh, she's so funny. She's so funny. She's got the laugh out loud moments that are just hilarious. And another writer who I quite enjoy is E.E. Holmes. She's an American author, and she writes a series called the Code. I'm going to get it wrong. I have to look at my notes. The Gateway series. Okay. She writes the Gateway series.
Yeah.
So those are really good. Victoria Aveyard's Red Queen, if you enjoy every kind of magical supernatural ability. She has, I don't know where she comes up with all these ideas. Amazing stuff that she puts out. And then my go-to favorite is Deborah Harkness's All Souls trilogy. Okay. Oh, just love those 3 books. They're really good. They're probably way up there in my top favorites.
No, thanks for those recommendations. I'm wondering if you can tell us what do you hope readers will love about your books?
I hope that they love that they're set in the here and now, and that they could be a part of this world that I'm creating. Because I work very hard to put the sense, like the smells and the feels and the sounds and the touches of everyday life around you. I like to make people think that it's possible. Is it possible? I want them to question, could this really be? I mean, obviously they're not going to, but I want to make it as easy as possible for them to be in that position and say, oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I'm sure you get lots of feedback from readers. Just wondering if there's anything that you might have received from a reader that you'd like to share with us, maybe something that touched you or something that you thought was a little bit strange or something like that.
I think the one that I always go back to that I remember the most is somebody who read the books and said to me they were addictive. I took that word and used it in all of my promotion because that's how I want people to feel about it. I want them to feel like they can't wait to get the next book. So it was very reassuring to me that I was maybe on the right track with that. Whenever someone says something like, I stayed up all night or I missed my bus stop, it's just the nicest feeling. I mean, I don't want them to be late for work, but I kind of do.
Yeah. And when you're writing your books, do you always know how they're going to end at the start?
I do now. I did not when I first started.
Okay, so that's
when I first
changed.
started, I was totally pantsing it. But now I write better if I have an idea of, like, before I start writing, I have the beginning, usually the end, and maybe the climax, a few other scenes. But I don't stick to that when I'm writing, a better idea comes along. So I'll always allow myself that freedom. It makes the writing fun when you can follow those unexpected paths.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite place to write?
I have two places. Well, I write anywhere, but when I'm home, which is 99.9% of the time, I have two chairs. I have one in the south end of the house, which is the dining room. And for some strange reason, when I'm in that chair, and it's always a lap table, I don't use a desk, I have a lap table. I'm my most creative there. So if I'm going to be writing, that's where I go. And I don't do any social media before I get on there. I don't read the headlines. I'm not online when I'm there. And I'll probably write for 3 or 4 hours first thing in the morning there. When I'm doing when I have my other hat on, the marketing hat, I sit in a chair in the living room, which is the same side of the house. It's probably not even 20 feet from where the other chair is. But for some reason in that other chair, I am, my marketing hat is on. I don't know I have no idea how they separated into those two things, but they did, and I'm just not going to mess with something that works. I'll just stick with it.
And what about a favorite snack or drink while you're writing?
Coffee, for sure.
Yeah.
Coffee. I don't typically snack because it gets my fingers dirty, and then, I have had nuts and stuff, and then you have to, like, wipe off the salt and the grease. So no, I don't usually snack, but coffee, lots and lots of coffee.
And Kelly says she loves addictive books. She wonders what your favorite addictive book is.
Oh gosh, I gotta say, when I was reading Charlene Harris's Sookie Stackhouse books, that was one, and the other one was the J.R. Ward books, the Black Decker Brotherhood. I remember walking around the house with those books on my Kindle, reading as I was walking along, and doing vacuuming, and very, very good books.
Yeah. And if you could be a character from any of your books for a day, who would you be and why?
Oh, Emmeline, for sure, because I want to fly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the first series, and it was about a secret society of people who could fly. And that is the dream that I have when I talked about a recurring dream. It's that I can fly. So this character can fly, and that's probably the biggest feedback I get from people. They say, "Oh, I have dreams of flying too."
Yeah.
So many people do.
Yeah.
They can relate with that story.
Yeah. And for you, what do you think makes a good story?
I think being able to relate to the character. I mean, it doesn't have to be a character you like, but you have to be able to relate to them, I think, in order for it to be a truly enjoyable story. You will cheer for them when they're down, and you will kind of help them, like, go on the journey with them.
Yeah, and Sarah, she said, going back to the flying, she says, I wish I could fly as well. I think a lot of us wish that.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Especially with gas prices the way they are now.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Exactly. And what are you doing now? Are you working on something new at the moment?
I've got two exciting things. The next book in the Bloodmark series continues Jane's story, and that is called Ghostmark, and it is set for release for the 1st of November. So I'm excited about that. And I have also started the writing of the next book in that series. So because the publicist needs the book so early, he's had this book since, I think, the end of June. So since that time, I've been plucking away on an outline for a third book in that series. And I started writing it the other day. I couldn't help myself. I said, "Oh, I got to do this. Got to write this down." So yeah, that's what it's exciting me right now.
Yeah, and when you're writing a series, I think it was Anne Charles who said to me, she said she employs someone who actually keeps track of all the characters and what they've done and all. How do you do that?
I keep a series Bible, and the series Bible has all of the characters and all of the places and the relationships between characters and the distances between places. I have floor plans of the homes that a lot of scenes take place in. And in the first series, there's a yacht. And so I have floor plans of each level of the yacht. And every time there's a new book coming out, as I'm writing it, if, like, for example, when Jane has long hair and at the end of the book, she cuts, I don't remember if she cuts there or the next book, but anyway, she cuts her hair. So I will make a note that she cut her hair off so that I'm not making the mistake in the next book about, her long hair. So I keep track of those. And when people get scars, I keep track of when they get scars. And this was born out of necessity, just because I got really tired of flipping through or searching through old books to say, oh gosh, did I say he had green eyes or brown, or did I even say he had a color of eye? It just got to be too much work.
And I can see, we can see the cover of Bloodmark there in the background. Just wondering, when you're writing characters, do you have a set idea in your mind of what they actually look like, and what do you feel when you see the cover? And
yeah, well, it's very telling when I think the first 4 covers that the designer sent me, I didn't relate to the characters at all. Okay. And I didn't want to see the characters' faces head on. Yeah. I didn't want to see them because it kind of stymies your imagination a little bit as a reader when you know what they look like. So when he came up with that, I was just over the moon because I thought it was just the right amount of edge to the character. Yeah. So that's kind of how I pictured her. I actually, in my head, was thinking of Jamie Alexander as what this character, just because that was the seed of the story. So that's kind of how I had the character in my head as I was going through it.
Yeah, and I have to say I loved your cover. The cover's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And what have you found so far to be your least favourite part of the publishing journey?
Probably the least favorite is still asking authors that I look up to and admire if they would provide a blurb for the book. Yeah. It's very nerve-wracking because it's a big ask, to have them, they're all busy, to have them read your book and say something nice about it. You're assuming they're going to like it. You're assuming that they're going to have the time to do it. And so that's nerve-wracking for me, that part.
Yeah. And do you belong to a writer's group?
Oh, many. Yeah. I do. I belong to the Alliance of Independent Authors, the terrific source there. In Canada here, there's an organization called the Creative Academy, another great resource for authors that I just love. And I also belong to the Federation of BC Writers here in British Columbia. And I have 2 different critique groups. One I've been with the longest. They are my best buddies, and they have given me so many ideas for improving the books. And the other is a fairly new group that I've just started to hang out with. So I have many writing groups I hang around.
And are you someone who likes to share things or sound things off with other people as you're writing?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if I'm stuck. Yeah. Like I used walking with friends here. If I'm stuck on something, I'll talk it out and see if they have any ideas, and I'll often get the answers to those ideas just talking it out with friends and people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what do you like doing when you're not writing or reading?
Well, I love cooking. I love gardening. I don't have the time for both of those that I used to before. And so reading is the thing that's kind of taken over. And some of that is reading I have to do, but I got to say I love that part of it. But yeah, I love cooking. I just learned last weekend how to put together a charcuterie tray. I had to look it up on YouTube because I was doing it all wrong. It looked always the big hot mess. But I did one last night that looked like it could have come out of a restaurant. It looked so good.
Sounds
delicious.
Yeah, sounds nice. Yeah. And I'm also wondering, like, especially for blood mark, what sort of research did you do?
Oh my goodness. You think that there's no research because it's fiction. There's a ton of research. So not only the Google Map research, just to make sure you've got your city the way it is, because it's Vancouver and it's real life and I set it there, but also looking up things like birthmarks and birthmark removal. And I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I looked up in that book. Oh, hookers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I had to look up teachers' pet websites just to see what they were all about and how they operated. I didn't interview people, but I did get quite a bit of information online through interviews that other people had done. So that was actually quite a lot of fun. And then I also did a lot of research on burn scarring and how that gets treated in a hospital and grafting and that kind of thing. So every time you come up with a new scenario that you're not familiar with, you have to do quite a bit of research. Same with the private investigator. Like I needed to know what kind of licensing they require and what limitations they have, and then I had to look up flights for escaping Canada. So it's a never ending, but it's fairly fun research to do.
Yeah.
You learn a lot.
Yeah. And when you did your research, was there anything that you found that really surprised you?
I guess a big surprise was, and this I'm just gonna. It's for this book that's coming out. The big surprise I learned is we all think of crime, and I'm not sure if it's the same in Australia, but we're heavily influenced by American television, and so we think of how things happen in the American court as how they happen. So I had the very, very good fortune to interview a Crown prosecutor in British Columbia, and there's two people that go on trial for the same thing. And in the States, they would have separate trials, but not in Canada. In Canada, they're both in the box at the same time. So that was fascinating to me.
Yeah, I'd say similar here. Like we've got lots of American crime TV here as well. And I'm sure it's totally different in Australia. Well, thanks so much for talking to me. It's been great chatting to you. And look forward to reading more of your series.
Thank you. It's been great to talk to you too. And I hope you have you're about to have a coffee. Probably I'm about to have a glass of wine. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. And thanks for everyone who joined in. Do you want to let people know how they can keep in touch with you?
Sure. You can find everything you need about me on my website, which is jpmcleanauthor.com.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.